Alright, new Grimdark project today. We're going to be making some difficult terrain, sort of like a hilly rubble field kind of thing. Alright, so we did our sort of typical whittling of the foam to the sort of shape I want. We're going to smooth it out with some sandpaper in a minute. You'll notice I'm actually keeping a bunch of these chunks because we're going to use some of this stuff later in our rubble field. Alright, got the little hillside here sanded down a little bit. You'll notice I haven't sanded it down quite as much as I usually do. It's still kind of polygonal or gonal because we're going to be spackling over this to sort of meld it with the terrain piece. So I just Elmer's glued the hill to the board. What we're going to do now is we're going to take some of these foam pieces and cut them up into little rubble chunks. This is a pretty simple process, you know, just like this used to be sort of a triangle prism shaped thing, dicing it up. We're going to dice these pieces up a little bit more than this. So they look more like broken stones and stuff like that. And we're going to put some other stuff in there too. Alright, so we got some of these sort of polygonal chunks. We'll probably do pretty well. This isn't all our rubble field's made of, so we don't want to make like a lot of these. Another thing we're going to do is, for those of you who play Warhammer, might be familiar with this, we're going to take some plastic sprues here and cut them up and use them as sort of rubble chunks. I'll show you in a second. Okay, so what I've done here is I've taken out part of the sprue that still has parts I want to use. I'm just going to toss it in my bits box. What we're doing here is we're just taking some wire cutters like this and cutting up little chunks of sprue. I want to stress you don't need to use wire cutters. It's a lot easier if you do. You can use things like scissors and X-Acto knives. If you use scissors, don't count on using them for a long time because if it's got a plastic handle, it's a great way to break the blade out of the handle by doing this a lot. If you do it with an X-Acto knife, you're going to make your hand really sore and wear out your blade really fast, and it's really cumbersome. This is really easy. So I really want to stress, you don't need this, but it's really helpful if you do. I've seen people do stuff similar to this using like kind of nail clippers. Not nail clippers like this, but like big nail clippers like that are sort of shaped like well, like this really. Anyway, so we're just cutting up chunks of this to mix in with our rubble field. And I'll show you what we have in a minute. Alright, another thing I want to say is when you're cutting sprue, make sure that the piece you're about to cover off, you're covering with your hand. Because when you cut them, they have a habit of rocketing off and never to be seen again. And, you know, then your room's littered with old chunks of plastic that hurt like a motherfucker when you stand on them. Alright, the next thing we're going to add to our rubble field are some planks of wood. So, naturally, we're using popsicle sticks again, like a good crafts person. Cut off the ends. That way they don't look like popsicle sticks, they look like planks. And I would say try and rough them up a little bit so they're split like this. So we get some nice pieces of wood. Now popsicle sticks have a very distinctive way of breaking, and you don't want this to show because it might look more like a popsicle stick and less like wooden scraps, but I think this looks pretty fair. And maybe cutting off some of these little threads here. Yeah, that should be good. Stuff like this, more stuff for our rubble field. Also, I encourage you, if you have a bits box, to go through it and add stuff. You know, any old like vehicle pieces, stuff like that, adds a lot of flavor to a rubble field, especially when we're using really cheap materials like this. You know, the foam and the sprue chunks, you know, they give us a really bountiful rubble field, but they don't make it very interesting. So it's really important to add little bits and pieces to it. So we're going to take a quick look through my bits box for some parts. Here's half of an orc bike. I think I might try and chop this up into pieces. Use that for some bits. What else we got in here? Yeah, this looks like it'll be good. It's a piece of old Imperial bulkhead from the Gorka Morka train set with some chicken wire on it from a previous creation that's been cast aside. Ooh, some I-beams. This little piece of plastic looks like an iron girder. Should be good. Oh, part of an orc track. Orc vehicle. Should be good. Good tire for measure. Let's see what else we got. Ooh, Star Trek comm badge. Oh, these are really handy. Just a general tip for keeping bits. If you have any bits that are really valuable to you, they came from like a really expensive kit, and you want to save it for a specific project, using medicine bottles like this for putting parts in. For instance, when I made my Tread Dread, he had leftover legs, and the next time I make a dreadnought, I actually want to make it a 4-legged dreadnought. So I have all his parts saved in here, so I don't lose them, so they don't get mixed around with everything else, so I can find them when I need them again. So hang on to your medicine bottles. Altoids, tins, things like that are perfect for this sort of thing. Chunk from a Space Marine land speeder, I think. We'll throw that in. Ooh, a track piece from a Land Raider. Another iron girder. Orc vehicle chunk. Alright. Now our Rebel's looking a little more sizable. We got our bits. We got our chopped up sprue. We got some broken up planks and our foam chunks. I'm going to go ahead and make more of this stuff, like the sprue pieces and the planks. Okay, so something else we can do with our foam Rebel chunks is, like, they still look pretty polygonal, you know, like, they look like Rebel from, like, Half-Life 1. You can just rip off corners of them to give them more of a rough texture with your fingers. Just use your fingernails and really tear into them. And it'll give them more of a natural look. You can see this one I've already chewed up a little bit. This will also result in you having more rubble, because you'll have all these little pieces you're tearing off. Some of them you might not want to use, but, you know, whatever. And, like with anything, like anytime we're working with rubble, or with foam, I mean, this will probably result in an extraordinary mess, so do this somewhere where you can vacuum. Alright, brand new spackle again. Used up just about a whole tub to make the gaming table, so we're going to have a fresh one today. We're going to spackle over all the incongruous areas where the foam meets the board, and give it the same sort of texture I give a lot of my terrain. Got our hillside all spackled up here. I'm going to let this dry out, and then we're going to start adding rubble chunks to this. Alright, so another trick we can use for roughing up the foam to make it, to give it more of a natural look and make it look less like a, you know, a polygon in an old game, is take a popsicle stick, snap the tip off so it's got kind of a rough edge like this. Take our smooth foam and just rub it against. It'll kind of chew it up. Like with most things with foam, this will make a lot of mess. But then when you clean it away, you know, it's got this nice sort of hole dug into it. Looks kind of cool. Just thought I'd throw that in there. So we're going to try and glue most of these on. I'm going to try and use Elmer's glue wherever I can. But there's certain things that I feel like probably just won't hold properly if I only use Elmer's glue. So we'll super glue some of it in place, you know, mix and match. Alright, so the last piece we got here is a little bit of barbed wire I made. And so this is a couple pieces of wire twisted together, and then little, I'm not sure if you can see, there's little snips of it that I've cut off and twisted around to make little barbs. I've got a couple pieces of this. I'm not even going to pretend to take credit for this. There's a video on YouTube I'm going to link where another guy makes these. And so we're going to add these to our rubble pile to make them nice and dangerous. Alright, so I've gone through and glued all the stuff in place. I used Elmer's glue for mounting all the styrofoam, of course, otherwise it'll melt. Something I did, and you probably shouldn't, is when I was putting on some of the rubble here, I just sort of dumped it on and then squirted a shitload of super glue all over it. And this works pretty well, but it's a great way to waste super glue, and you probably shouldn't do it. But if you're anything like me, you probably will, because it's way easier. Yeah, for painting our rubble field, we're going to be using mostly the same painting techniques as I use in like every other video, so I'm not really going to go through detail on how we do it. I'm just going to show you how it looks when it's done. Alright, well our rubble field is painted. Really, it's not that interesting to tell you how I painted it. I painted the sand around the edges, the usual sort of sand colors we got. I dry brushed a lot of it, sort of gray and brown and metallic colors. And even some brown metallics. For instance, good old-fashioned tin bits here. Then what I also did with a lot of it is sort of dipped my brush into some red, sort of dark red terracotta paint. And with not even like dry brushing, just like slooshed it around on some of the terrain to give it kind of a nice, even rusted look. And dry brushed painted the wood brown, dry brushed it with a lighter color to draw attention to it. And that's about it.